Welcome to the Press Conference for September 20th, 2024. Joining today's presser is Mr. Harry Adams, Councillor of the Georgetown Mayor City Council, Mr. Aubrey C. Norton, Member of Parliament, Leader of the People's National Congress Reform and Parliamentary Opposition, and Mr. Danish Michael, Member of Parliament, Shadow Minister of Local Government and Regional Development. Today's press statement will be read in two parts, and we will begin with that reading from the Leader of the Opposition.
PNCR APNU policy on bridge tolls will be part of a larger travel and transportation plan. Recently, the People's Progressive Party has been bragging about its proposal to make bridges in Guyana toll-free and expects to be praised for its decision. But this is the same government that recently granted a measly salary increase to teachers and continues to sit on 7 billion Guyana dollars that has been approved in the 2024 budget since 2nd February to ease the cost of living burden on ordinary people. Clearly, the aim is not to ease the burden on the people of Guyana. The PPP has two aims to achieve by suggesting toll-free crossing. First, it is an attempt to create the conditions to pay its friends and favorites large sums of money for their investment in the Berbice River Bridge. Second, it is an attempt to be vindictive against the Mayor and Town Council of Linden. It is well known that the Wismar to Mackenzie Bridge in Linden earns the council the most revenue. The government is seeking to ensure the council is starved of resources, since the PPP does not give the council adequate subvention. As the next PNCR-APNU government, we will make all travels in Guyana inexpensive as part of a comprehensive and integrated vision for transportation and movement of people, goods, services, and data across the country. Tolls are mostly intended to recoup investments and or cover operating costs. With increasing oil wealth, however, our country can afford to reduce the burden on the traveling public, especially in the larger context of our national travel and transportation strategy. The record will show that the PNCR-APNU has a proud record of removing tolls, as in the case of the Linden-Soesdijk and Quarantine highways, and reducing tolls, as in the case of the Berbice River Bridge. With specific reference to the Wismar-Mackenzie Bridge, reducing the toll or making it toll-free, however, carries significant financial implications for the Linden municipality, as tolls are one of its main sources of revenues, contributing as much as 70 million annually. The PPP has been definitely silent on this implication, even as yesterday's VP's press conference. But let us be as loud as possible on this matter. As the next government, we will compensate the Linden municipality for the projected revenues it would forego when we reduce the tolls on the Wismar Bridge. In addition, all operating costs, including maintenance, will be the responsibility of central government. The PPP's proposal to make bridges toll-free has exposed its politics of cronyism and its disregard for the people of the township of Linden. As regards the existing Berbice River Bridge, the PPP should inform the nation how much of the people's money it is handing over to its friends and favorites who currently own the bridge. As regards to the Wismar-Mackenzie Bridge, Lindeners and all Guyanese should take note that the PPP has shown absolutely no concern or interest in addressing the fact that the Linden municipality will lose a major source of revenue. We in the PNCR-APNU view bridge tolls and the construction of bridges in a larger developmental context. That context is informed by our vision of 1, connecting the coast and the hinterland; 2, creating an intercity highway network, such as our proposal to connect Linden and New Amsterdam by a direct road link; and 3, transforming the riverfronts into commercial and recreational zones. Guyanese must be able to travel conveniently and cheaply across the country by different modes of transportation. No one must be prevented from traveling because of inadequate transportation links, poor services, or high cost of travel. We will, we will also seek to minimize the cost of internal air flights without jeopardizing the profitability of private operators. Under PNCRA, PNU government, freedom of movement will be more than just a human right on paper. The freedom will be facilitated by an integrated and convenient system of transportation routes and connections. Unlike the PPP, we do not approach development in a half-baked, disjointed, and superficial manner. Our approach involves examining the entire transportation system and travel experience in the country and planning accordingly. Our approach involves putting people first and at the center of our development agenda. Jagdeo should take his own advice on how to tell a lie. As usual, Second Vice President Barra Jagdeo spent almost his entire press conference yesterday attacking the opposition, engaging in self-delusion, distorting and rewriting history. Amid the dulling tedium, he did offer a bit of advice on how to be an effective liar by saying that the best lies are those closest to the truth. He should know. The vice president must then take his own advice as often as possible. He falsely claimed yesterday, for instance, that during the PNC's 28-year reign, it did nothing for health and education. Jagdo is, of course, aware that apart from making health and education free for all, the PNC also made it accessible to all by building a multitude of schools. May I add here that Jagdo himself went to one, health centers and hospitals across the country, and training batches and batches of teachers, medics, and other healthcare workers in education facilities which it built. Jagdeo is obviously a bad liar. Jagdeo talks as if Guyana began in 1992. He must not rewrite history. Among the many such lies and fabrications at his presser yesterday, we wish to briefly respond to three others. One, his repeated claim that the PNCR is racist. As every sensible Guyanese knows, that as a practical political matter, the PNC cannot afford to be racist should it ever wish to win an election in Ghana, given the country's demographics. Furthermore, the PNC cannot afford to be racist as such. A posture would make it unappealing to many Afro-Guyanese themselves. The record will show that the PNCR, since its first formed the government in 1964, invested massively in agricultural development. We need not explain which ethnic group benefited the most from these investments. The party that's the party that gains most from the politics of race and exclusion is the People's Progressive Party. Calling the PNCR racist is a backhanded and wicked attempt by Jagdeo to beat the racial drum to rebuild the PPP's dwindling support base. Two, let us repeat our position on electricity subsidies. As Jagdeo pretends to be deaf to our public statements and still falsely accuses us of planning to abolish subsidies. At a July press conference, I stated that while a PNCR-led government will work over the long term to make GPL and GWI efficient and less of a burden on the national treasury, our government will maintain subsidies in line with its long-standing stated position that electricity and water must be made free or affordable to low-income households and vulnerable groups. The next PNCRA PNU government will not abolish electricity subsidies. In addition, as leader in my biennial delegates congress, I stated as follows: that our people-centered development strategy will ensure that the needs of the people such as healthcare, housing, water, electricity, education, and other social services are guaranteed. Three, Jagdeo continues to claim the gas to energy project as the PPP's brainchild, when in fact the project was conceptualized under the coalition government. Similarly, he deviously tries to mislead the public into believing that the criticisms of the secretive and cavalier approach in handling projects equate to the PNCR's total opposition to the project. For the record, We fully support the need to exploit our gas resources for energy and other uses. What we do not support is Jaglio's fiasco-prone style of managing these large public investments. The Skeldon Estate Modernization Plan is still rated as the largest public investment failure in the Caribbean. In that fiasco, Jaglio personally oversaw the loss of approximately US $200 million.
Mr. Danish Malcolm.
The National Procurement and Tender Administration Board is a blatantly corrupt agency, epitomizing the rampant graft that has become the hallmark of the PPP government. On August 15, 2024, the NPTAB considered and awarded contracts to the Ministry of Health for the supply of pharmaceuticals. Out of 505 items tendered for by 11 companies across 40 lots, every single one was handed to the new GPC Inc., amounting to over $7 billion. This is as brazen an act for favoritism and corruption. The PNCR APNU has verified that the new GPC Inc. was not the lowest, most responsive bidder in all 40 lots. Even more damning is the allegation that 10% of the awarded sum, $700 million, was funneled as a bribe to Freedom House to secure the deal for new GPC Inc. This is organized crime masquerading as governance. The rot runs deep, with members of the Evaluation Committee and NPTAB allegedly getting their cut from Freedom House in a pattern that mirrors the corruption and corrupt awarding of the infamous pump station contracts. This scandal is just a glimpse into the vast web of corruption strangling development in Guyana and involving the NPTAB and regional tender boards. We demand an investigation and an immediate forensic investigation into the dealings of NPTAB. However, it is abundantly clear that the Audit Office of Guyana is either too intimidated or too under-resourced to tackle the enormity of this corruption. Guyana stands at the precipice, with corruption at its highest point and transparency and accountability at their lowest. All Guyanese must stand up to the incompetent and corrupt regime to safeguard our interest. To combat this plague of corruption, we propose the following steps. 1. Establishment of an independent investigative body. An international independent investigative commission should be established, free from government influence and interference, to conduct a comprehensive forensic audit of NPTAB and all related entities. 2. International oversight. We call on international anti-corruption agencies and organizations such as Transparency International and the United Nations to provide oversight and ensure that the investigations are full of integrity. 3. Legal reforms. Immediate reform of procurement laws to include more stringent anti-corruption measures, including transparency in the bidding process, public disclosure of contract awards, and mandatory audits for all significant public tenders. 4. Protection for whistleblowers. Implement a robust legal framework with the aim of protecting whistleblowers who expose corruption within government agencies and ensure they are not subject to retaliation. 5. Public accountability. The results of any investigation should be made public, and individuals found guilty of corruption and corrupt practices should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law with no immunity for high-ranking officials. This is a call to action. The future of Guyana hangs in the balance, and we must not allow this culture of impunity to continue. The citizens of Guyana deserve a government that is accountable, transparent, and committed to serving the people, not enriching itself through systematic corruption. The people of Guyana must reject the PPP through their voices and votes. The PNCR APNU calls for a forensic audit of the cost for renovating and completing the Guyana Geology and Mines Commission building on High Street. GGMC insiders have informed us that there was rampant corruption in the process of rehabilitating and completing the GGMC building on High Street. People close to the work done on this building have pointed out that it was virtually impossible for the completion and rehabilitation of that building to cost 2 billion Guyana dollars. We therefore call for a forensic audit of the spending of the GGMC building on High Street. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I'll open the floor for questions on the press statement, of course, by the show of hands and by stating the name of your agent, your media. Mr. Adam Harris.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Commentator, you spoke about the whole question of toll-free. I would like to know, was any study done to ascertain the feasibility of toll-free bridges? Given one, the cost of construction, and two, the number of, the impact, such a decision would have.
You know, the wild man Jack, they all said a while back that they don't do interested in feasibility studies. They're interested in getting the projects done. I don't think they did any study. And that is why we did not proceed to say that we will make them free. In principle, we have developed a people-centered development strategy, and we have agreed that our aim will be to put resources in the hands of the Guyanese people directly and indirectly to make these bridges and so inexpensive will help. But we do not want to, without feasibility study, without actually knowing the cost, etc., for maintenance, we don't want to go down the road like the PPP, while just saying we will make it toll-free, and it's not based on any data that is useful. The PPP is just into publicity stunts. They are not into managing a society. Managing a society demands that you have studies done so that when you act, you know you're acting based on proper data. While we have oil resources, we can't just conclude that we can put up a network of bridges, make all of them free, and then there is no mechanism to maintain them, etc. And that is why we have said we believe people must get a good quality life. We will do everything to give them a good quality life. Like we said in the press statement, we are suspicious. We know that the PPP want to give to their friends and favorites the money they invested in the bridge. They believe among themselves, they are talking, they believe they will lose the next election. And so what they're trying to do is to create this thing of toll-free. And then they can say, since it is free, we need to pay off the persons who invested, and they will proceed to pay them off. And you know them, even if they win by some stretch of imagination, they don't necessarily have to maintain that commitment. The PPP is not known for maintaining the things that they say. They are not a policy honest set of people. Don't forget that Jack Doe said clean voters list is necessary, biometrics necessary. When in government, he changed his mouth. So one cannot trust them. The next thing as it relates to the Linden Bridge, I am 99.9% sure that the intention is not to help the people of Linden. The intention is to take away from the municipality of Linden this particular revenue stream that would give them $70 million and make them dependent on the government. Wickedness is afoot. Whenever Jack Day opens his mouth, you don't look into his mouth. It's not good to look in it. Look under and get a clear idea of where he's coming from. I think he's coming from 2 points. From family, friends, and to remove the revenue from Linden, while at the same time starving all the APNU controlled cities of resources: Georgetown, Linden, New Amsterdam. Lindeners, New Amsterdamers, people in Georgetown must not be carried away by this thing that Fanali and Jack are speaking about.
I have a question.
And
Go ahead.
yeah, another thing that I would like to talk about is the gas to energy project. You said that was a brainchild of the coalition, and we know that it has gone some distance. I don't know how far because not much is being said. Are you in a position to talk about the state, the present state of the gas to shore project, sir?
Let me go back. Yes, it was an APNU AFC project. Yes, a feasibility study was done, but it was going to go to another part of Guyana rather than to Wales. The government, without any feasibility, decide they're taking it to Wales. They don't give any information. One time you hear it was going to be completed in 2024. It now has gone to 2025. And based on some of the information I'm getting, it doesn't even appear likely in 2025. Plus, you are aware that there's an arbitration matter with one of the companies involved. So it is very difficult for me to stay where it is. But if I know the PPP, judging from Skeldon Sugar Factory, judging from the fiber optic cable scam, judging from their performance over the years, I won't be surprised if it is way past 2025. And mind you, every day that it is delayed, the cost is going up and the cost of electricity will go up. So I don't even know that the studies that were done at the time are still relevant. And since there are no studies, there's no environmental impact assessment, etc. I don't think anyone is in a position to comment. Even Jack Deo, you can hear him telling them, talk to Brazenton. And then Brazenton said, talk to Jack Deo. If among them, they don't know, how could we?
And we must recall, if I may add to what the leader has said there, we must recall that in the National Assembly, questions were put to the Prime Minister, Mark Phillips, for him to make public the final investment plan and all the other documents relating to this project. And we were promised, but to date, nothing has been delivered. You would recall that it was Minister Ashley Singh that ran to his rescue when those questions were being put. And they did commit to producing the documents, making it public. But to date, nothing of the sort. And that was since 2 budgets ago, if I'm not mistaken.
Thank you. All right. So I have a question here that has been sent in by
If
Mr.
nobody else, I have one other question.
I was about to,
Now, there is a, sorry?
I was about to read a question, but I'll allow you to ask the other question and then I'll get into a question that I have pending.
All right. Yes, there is a public procurement commission that is supposed to investigate the award of contracts. How has the PNC APNU been using the
What's that?
PPC, sorry, in the face of all these stated irregularities and the various questions being asked about the award of contracts?
So Adam, let me take that one and say to you that we have been writing the Public Procurement Commission. You would recall that letters were dispatched by a member of parliament from the opposition concerning the infamous pump station at Bellevue, and there were some other requests for investigation. I want to tell you that I am in the process of preparing another letter to be dispatched to the Public Procurement Commission concerning this award of the 40 lots to the new GPC Inc. And I have some supporting documents here with figures to show that new GPC was not the lowest most responsive. Now, don't get me wrong. I know lowest most responsive is not just about figures. There were, I think, about 18 criteria. And I know of other companies that satisfied those criteria. And I know from their figure that they had a lower figure when compared to new GPC for some of these lots out of the 40. And I want to make it very clear, it's not that the APNU is against the new GPC being awarded contracts. What we are against is new GPC being awarded all of the contracts. And it is very, very unfair to the many other companies, and in this instance, the 10 other companies that expressed an interest. They were fully compliant, but for some strange reason, the contracts all went to new GPC. So we will be writing the Public Procurement Commission. We must remember that the Public Procurement Commission, in terms of the pump station at Bellevue, they, they said that they need to fix it going forward. And they did not take a definitive position on pronouncing that it was done in a manner that was very much wrong. So we're not optimistic about the Public Procurement Commission calling out the NPTAB for their wrongdoing. And we remember the tit for tat that NPTAB and Public Procurement Commission had in terms of producing documents to PPC, ensuring that they get an unhindered investigative process going. And the politicians interfere with the process. And that's the sad reality of where our country is. The system and the structures are not allowed to function effectively. So we will be writing PPC. We are not optimistic about how they will approach it, but we are left to see how they handle it. The best solution, the only solution, the most fitting solution to fixing the ills and stopping the corrupt practices in this country right now is to simply vote the PPP out of office.
I should add that as opposition leader, a number of persons engaged me when they were not treated fairly. And all of those were sent to our commissioners who pursued the case. I remember of a particular African Guyanese who had qualified in every area. And the reps on the Procurement Commission pursued the case. But you had the government intervention and they just couldn't operate as a procurement commission. The government does not allow the Procurement Commission to operate the way it was intended. And so even though the issues are raised, I know, for instance, we have a young commissioner, Diana Rajkumar, who does an excellent job of representing, etc. But you're representing to deaf people.
Thank you. I have a question from Mr. Antonio Day for MP Danish Mike Paul. Based on your contribution on MP tab, he is asking what is your stance on the station at Bellevue, which is yet to be completed.
Well, I am slated to make another visit there. I'm not going to say which day, and of course, I'll be updating our social media pages with the information. But I can tell you that it is way behind schedule, and it is no different from what we projected when we said that in the first place it should not have been awarded to that controversial figure. But it goes to show that what we have been outlining all the time is coming to fruition. And I will only have at my disposal the information to expose it in the public domain. It is the Guyanese people who will have to draw their firm conclusion with me. And as I said, the best way to fix the problems of this country is to vote the PPP out of office. I want to add that whilst I was speaking just now on the NP tab and new GPC, I received a message here from a number that I don't know, but I will not let that number out. But what I'll tell you is that the message says, I I placed bids for over 201 out of the 505 products. And in some of the lots, I bidded evenly with the new GPC, and my figures are lower, and I satisfy all of the criteria set out. But I can't understand why I was sidelined. Please don't call my name. I'm fearful of victimization.
All right.
That's what we get. If the request is for us not to call their names, we have to respect that because of how this country operates right now under the PPP. They're fearful that they become targets and their financial earnings are being will be stifled. But they provide us with the facts to show the unfair treatment. They provide us with the evidence also to show how they're being unfairly treated. And the first thing the PPP will do is run and say the Procurement Act has a space for contractors to lay their complaints and objections. But contractors are fearful of doing that because of how they will be treated by this barbaric administration. And that is why we are left with the option of bringing it to the public and for the public to be the judge of what is happening.
Should I add that it should be underscored that the new GPC is close to the PPP and Barra Jack deal? So it should be obvious to all that it has been the manipulation of it to ensure their friends and favorites get what?
And
All
we
the money. Oh, let me finish. All the money. And may I also point this out? We lack the institutional capacity. The government, Guyana, lack the institutional capacity to spend the billions of dollars in a sensible and effective way. It is clear the aim is not to get pump station and all that. The aim is to put money in the hands of PPP cronies. And it is in that context we must see what is happening.
and new GPC is nothing new. This is not a new company today to controversies. If you go back and you simply Google, you will see in 2014 what is the issue they had. I think he was awarded over $1 billion for the same purpose and did not deliver. And in 2015, when there was a change of guard, there was the issue of ensuring that the goods are delivered, the pharmaceuticals are delivered. In 2021, he received more than half of the $8 billion. In 2022, he received another set of billions of dollars. And 2023 and 2024, no. So it is clear that this is a favored company. They're hiding under the guise that he has the warehouse and the storage capacity. But these other companies that placed a bid here, the 10 others, they indicated and they demonstrated in the evaluation form that they equally have storage capacity also. As I said, it was 505 products in 40 lots. And it's difficult to comprehend that you would give all amounting to over $7 billion to just one company. Everybody got to eat.
Thank you. Questions on the press statement?
I have a few questions.
Go ahead. Give name and news agency. Question coming from within our studios.
Good morning. Mr. Norton, you spoke on a number of things that the Vice President mentioned yesterday during his press conference. But I want to ask specifically about the statement that the VP made, where he said that the TORs for the COI to the crime wave will be finalized and that the COI will be announced soon. What is the PNC's position on that?
I didn't hear him on that one, but you said he announced terms of reference to deal with the crime wave. First of all, that's an acknowledgement that there's a crime wave. Under us, we were reducing crime. So that's a tacit acknowledgement that there's a crime wave. You know, the president wrote a letter asking me to consult on the police commissioner, to appoint the police commissioner. I wrote him saying, there's no need for consultation. There's need for an investigation into the leadership of the police force, including Clifton Aiken. You can come up with whatever terms of reference you want on a crime wave. If you don't deal with the problem at the root of the problems here are: one, a compromised police force that cannot enforce law and order in a uniformed way. The short pants, the killing of short pants, paper shots, is a clear case in which the police through the cameras had the evidence but couldn't act. So even if you give the world of terms of reference and there's a world of investigation, you have to deal with the fact that the PPP government is complicit in corruption. They are complicit in crimes. And when the crimes are committed by people close to them, the allegations against Dharam Lal, the police cannot act. How then are you going to investigate crime without establishing that the government itself is prepared to depoliticize the Ghana police force? The government is prepared to let crimes that are committed, regardless of who commit them, be investigated by the police force. And if those terms of reference are going to be useful, it should include the investigation of allegations of bribery and corruption against Barra Jackdew, as is stated clearly in the documentary by Vice News. So Barra Jackdew has no moral right to talk anything about investigation and crimes. The man is one of the most barefaced pieces of things that ever hit this earth. Here is a man that is criticizing, on the one hand, the closing of the estates, sugar estates. He closed Diamond. He closed LBI. He closed more estates than anyone else. Lenora was closed. He closed more sugar estates than anyone else, and then comes back to operate that the closing of a sugar estate is a crime. Well, then he was the first criminal. He has no moral right to be involved in anything to do with investigating crimes, because based on allegations, he himself should be investigated. And what crimes are they going to investigate? Pickpocket on the road? The biggest crimes occurring now are occurring in corruption. We just mentioned the GGMC building, where anybody who knows it is the old GBC building on High Street. The building was virtually completed. For whatever defects it had, it was left. You then come now to do it and telling us that it cost $2 billion to complete it and rehabilitate it. This man has no moral right to speak. He has presided over the most corruption in this country. the most deaths and murder of African Guyanese and other Guyanese occurred under his watch as president. So I would say to the Chronicle, look at the crimes committed and deal with all of them in a fair way, including the allegations of bribery and corruption against Barra Jackdew. I hope the crimes will include white-collar crimes, because to deal with crime, the biggest crimes in this country are occurring in high offices.
I just want to bring it back. I have another question. I think the vice president was referring to the COI into the 2000s, right? So we can speak to that. And my other question has to do with
Let me deal with that one first. If you're investigating the 2000 crime wave, you're charging Caesar to be tried by Caesar. Barra Jackdew again should not be involved in setting up of anything to deal with the crime wave, because he would be considered an integral part of the crime wave. The crime wave you are talking about, there are views out there that suggest that the government was involved in releasing at least one criminal to pursue their business. And when that criminal turned against them and ended up in all kinds of problems, I won't call the name, they disowned him. A senior PPP person came and celebrated when they were able to get, I think Gerald Pereira was his name, when they were able to get a particular person that was involved in the crime wave to go and kill Gerald Pereira on the quarantine. And then that person again end up amidst the people who are involved in crime. Let us understand the crime wave you're talking about. The Home Affairs Minister, Ronald Gadraj, was cited for being criminally involved in that. So what crime wave could be investigated? If you want to do an investigation, it must be done by independent foreigners who you can't pressure, and not the likes of nominees from the Prime Minister St. Vincent. Proper independent investigators. Let us not forget that when the investigation started, the Human Rights Commission was instrumental in bringing an independent person from overseas. And that independent person had to write a dissenting view, because the PPP was bent on covering up what happened. So any sensible Guyanese wouldn't want Barra Jackdew and the PPP close to any investigation into those matters which they were involved in. Look at the Mahdia. Look at the Mahdia fire. Rather than having an independent investigation, you had people who are in the employs of the government. And so the minister, which investigation of consequence into the burning down of a school with children inside, the minister responsible will not be called. This has to be a joke of unprecedented proportion. And the joker it's coming from knows full well that nobody will accept an investigation when he is part of the setting up of it, creating the terms of reference. And why is it, if you are creating terms of reference, the opposition in the parliament of Guyana has 49+%. Why is it that the opposition isn't involved and have a say? So tell Jackdew he can put that investigation and his terms of reference where Paddy, they suggest, put the nuts.
All right. Um, so, the leader of the AFC has hinted that they will go, they might contest the elections alone in 2025. Um, does the PNC believe that it can successfully go to the polls without its coalition partner?
I would not operate based on hints. Hints sounds very much like the press conferences you have on Thursday. Now, let me say this. We have had and continue to have a relationship with the AFC. We believe we are better together and we opt for coalition. But we know we can mobilize and organize and beat the PPP. But we prefer to have coalition politics to widen the involvement and ensure a wider participation of the people. In fact, we are looking to add in other groups to the coalition so that we can be a wider coalition base as such.
And
Okay, go
yeah,
ahead.
so again, another question about one of the coalition's partners. Um, what is the PNC's position on the WPA's call for cash transfers from oil
For what?
revenues? For cash transfers from oil revenues.
We have already
Um,
said that we will give cash grants from oil revenue.
but in September or earlier this month, the WP had claimed that a case has been made for its cash transfer plan, which they call the Buxton proposal. Um, in June of 2023, you had said that you believe that $1 million can be offered per household, but later on, you then said that cash grants wouldn't take you out of poverty. That's why I'm asking about the PNC's position on WPA's
A piece
announcement.
is left out. Cash grants, as is presently practiced by the PPP, given a 20,000 aid, given a 20,000 aid, control and domination. That can take people out of poverty. But if you have a structured cash grant that we are talking about, say $1 million a year, then that is a considerable amount that people can utilize to invest to do other things. If like this government does, we get 20,000, and by the time you blink, I went in border yesterday with 3 little bag of fruits. It was $7,000. So the cash grant that they're talking about will not suffice. We are talking about a structure cash grant, and not with people walking around with a bag, through the system so it can be traced. And we need to remove what the PPP is doing. It goes to Linden and give 20 and 30,000. But we have evidence that when it goes to the quarantine, it ranges to 250,000 and in that zone. So you have to remove the discrimination from it. Unfortunately, all Jack do in the PPP know is control domination through discrimination. So there is no contradiction between us saying we are going to give at least $1 million in cash grant and the statement that cash grant as presently done by the People's Progressive Party cannot take people out of poverty. And even the cash grant that we are talking about is just one step in the process of taking people out of poverty. It is not the lone one. There are many other things we have said that we will do to take people out of poverty. We give measures that we will take to bring down the cost of living. We pointed out that we want to put in place a national school transportation system to remove transportation costs from the parents. We talk about 2 hot meals across the country to remove that cost from the parent and give children nutrition. So it is a raft of measures that are anti-poverty in nature that will allow us to deal with the situation and reduce and ultimately eradicate poverty.
open the floor for any other questions. But I have a question here from Starbrook News. It asks, could the PNC clarify what its position or statement the opposition plans to take on the current issues such as the condition of the Scronard or Cemetery Road, the sinking of the Heroes Highway, the poorly produced airstrip, and other significant infrastructural concerns?
I think right here at the press conference, we outlined our position on this whole question of infrastructure. We can make it available for them. Right here, I pointed out long before that video by Young Bailey, and I'm not here trying to remove the props from him. I think he does a good job of doing what he's doing. But we pointed out that the road was deteriorated. We pointed out the flaws in the road. We have long said that the Schoonard contract was again providing money to family, friends, and favorite, the amount of people they put in it so that all of them could get a share. And we have long said, when we issue that press statement on our approach to infrastructure, how our approach will be. But we will do another one. But I want to say this. There are a number of things that needs to be done. One, contractor training. If you're just picking up people and making them contractor. And so the results you get is a function of them picking up their supporters and making them contractors. We need to have, and the APNU will set up a contractor training school. The reason being, you need to train contractors and let them understand the various elements of dealing with a contract. Second, and this happened before, while we were in government between 1964 and 1992, we did engage, I don't remember if it's the IDB and the World Bank, and we had training for contractors, and very good contractors came out of that, some of whom the PPP destroyed when they came to government. So we have to reintroduce that. We have to have somewhere in the Ministry of Public Works a unit that monitors quality and ensure that we are getting the quality that we ask for. And not just the end of the road, at the end of the road, we need to know the quality of stone, etc., that are being used, and what are the things that need to be done to ensure we have proper roads. The government seems to believe that when they don't build a substandard road, they put up something saying trucks not allowed. The reason that trucks are not allowed is because they did substandard work. The trucks traversed the Suez-Linden Highway for years, and I'm just showing you the government's approach to infrastructure. The Suez-Linden Highway had a lifespan from 1968 to a 20 years lifespan to 1988. We had gone to the international funding agencies and got the loans, etc., to do the Suez-Linden Highway. I remember Sam Hines representing the PPP saying the road need repairs. And they took the money and they put it all over the place. And that was because they weren't accustomed to a plan where you did a road for 20 years, apart from the basic maintenance, you had to redo it and give it another 20 years life. They are not into that. We believe that there's need for a proper planning unit. We also need to involve the University of Ghana, especially the Faculty of Technology. No, the Department of Technology, right? I don't think it's a faculty. It's faculty, okay. Faculty of Technology and Engineering. So our approach will be one that is informed by proper studies. Jack, they don't like studies. When you got studies, you reduce the scope for these kind of projects in which all the money can disappear, like the fiber optic cable, where they kind of count for billions, and until now we can't get no fiber optic cable. We don't have to mention Skeldon again. It is well known. Our approach will be different. And we will also outline, we already have a draft document, apart from the policy positions we would have taken on how we move forward in terms of infrastructure development.
Thank you. The floor is still open for any other questions. I'll take about two other questions.
The other thing I should have mentioned, we will engage specialists in tongue and country planning, because clearly there's no plan in this country. But well, Irfan Ali himself said it when the journalist asked him. He says plan as he go along. I don't know which sensible person is plan as they go along. You plan before and you adapt as you go along. But that sounds like a special university graduate.
I think I saw the hand of Mr. Adam Harris. I'm not hearing you, Mr. Harris. I see for some reason your stuff is moving, but I'm not hearing you. 1 second.
Is he there?
Mr. Harris, try again. Let me see if I can hear you.
Is somebody asking a question?
No, you can go ahead. I wasn't hearing you just now. Mr. Harris?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just heard that.
Okay.
Leader, you mentioned briefly the acting police commissioner, and you said that the president had written to you. Why he had to write to you, I wasn't sure. But why consult you on a man who was retired? And did he make a suggestion of Higgins' replacement?
No. He wrote asking to confirm Hicken. I've already publicly made the position clear that Hicken is neither certified nor qualified for the job. We also said I didn't respond to his letter to consult, but I did send him a letter saying, as far as we're concerned, what is needed is an investigation into Hicken and the leadership of the Guyana Police Force. And in that letter, I did outline some of the transgressions of Hicken. I mean, let's assume that I wanted to consult. Let's assume that I hadn't already taken the position and made it public and the president knows it. Who would appoint Hicken as commissioner? Here is a man that goes in the public domain and operates as a politician. How could you be the commissioner of police when you are glaringly operating on behalf of a political party? So I've said in that letter, what we need is an investigation. We called for it before, and nobody with a modicum of common sense would agree to appoint Hicken as commissioner of police in Guyana. And I know if I had engaged the president, he would have said that was the consultation. So he has no opportunity to say he consult with me.
And Adam, from our own interaction and our own communication with members of the Guyana Police Force, officers that wear the brown clothes, and even policemen and women in their blue and black. About 70% of the Guyana police force wants Hickens gone. So he doesn't even enjoy the confidence of the organization he's in. But yet, Irfan Ali has the audacity to go and want to conform a man who is way past retirement. And if one is to examine the Guyana police force, as the leader rightly pointed out, the way the police force has deteriorated under Hicken, it is only proper for him to peacefully exit that force and go into retirement as we seek to rebuild and bring back trust at the level of the Guyana police force.
And it is the highest level of corruption ever experienced in the history of the Guyana police force. Unless the government is saying they're condoning and complicit with the corruption, of course, they most likely will, because they are as corrupt.
One last question. I mean, it might be a little difficult. What is the status of the girl arrested and charged with 20 murders for the Madhya dormitory fire? I've heard nothing on that. And what is the state of the investigation into Mr. Brutus? You're familiar with all the allegations against him at alleged attempt to money launder and all of that. We're hearing nothing about those. Is the opposition in a position to shed some light?
The answer is no, but from the inception, we said you couldn't put the Guyana police force to investigate the Guyana police force. So from day one, the intention was never to have a proper investigation. It is to have a charade. And then they say there is an investigation. We had called for quality persons, possibly the FBI, etc., to be involved in the investigation. They didn't do that. So we do not believe that there will be a credible investigation. At this stage, I cannot comment on what is happening with the child that they charge. I can check it, but I can say recently I was not pursuing it, and I don't want to speak without adequate information. I don't want to be a jackdaw.
And you know, in
Is
the
she in custody still, or has she been released, or what?
I I heard that she was in custody, but like I said, I prefer to check the facts then speak.
and I was going to make the point, Adam, that in the Brutus investigation, Karim Baksh silence is deafening, because he is the one that is supposed to be informing this nation as to how that is proceeding. But I don't know if he was instructed by Hicken to shut up, or I don't know if he was told to to stand down or whatever. But Karim Baksh has to speak on it, and I don't know when he intends to do so.
Thank you. All right. With there being no other questions, I want to thank all our media personnel for today. Those of you who joined us in person and on our Zoom, and of course to our viewing audience and all our social media platforms. Thank you very much, and do have a wonderful afternoon and evening.